Well, welcome. Now in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to turn NotebookLM into a LinkedIn carousel generator. We're going to start the process by using NotebookLM's search in the web for new sources. We're going to turn on deep research. And when we do that, we're going to need a prompt. We're going to get our prompts from Gemini. So to do that, we're going to ask Gemini to give us the prompt in order to put into the search bar. Now, we've listed publications that we know about that would be credible. You're going to list any other industry publications depending on the nature of your prompt. We're going to take this query and then go to Gemini to get a prompt. We're going to paste in our query. We're going to ask Gemini for the prompt. Whenever possible, we're going to use a pro query. We're then going to click submit. Gemini will then give you a prompt. You're going to copy that entire prompt. You're going to head to NotebookLM to place it inside of deep research. With deep research enabled, we're going to paste in our prompt. We're then going to click enter. Now, this part of the process is going to take some time. So what we're going to do now is stop the video. We're going to pick it up from the point at which NotebookLM has completed its part of this process. NotebookLM will then deliver a curated list of sources. And you'll see here in this video that there are 31 sources. You're going to want to view those sources. You'll notice then that NotebookLM will give you sources, which were the 31 that were listed. They will also give you sources that they did not cite in their report that you can add to the sources that you're going to import into NotebookLM in order to create your synthesis for the carousel. Now, what should really happen is that you should be investigating each one of these sources to determine its appropriateness. However, for the sake of this video, we're not going to go through that process for the sake of time. We're going to import all 31 sources that were cited. We're also going to import the sources that were not cited, and we're going to add them to our NotebookLM. We're going to import them. Once you have all 50 sources, you can click F5. That'll refresh your notebook. Typically notice that some of the sources will not be usable. What you can do is you can remove all the failed sources, and then you'll have the sources that will be available for the sake of your report. Now what we need to do is we need to synthesize these reports into elements for the carousel. Once again, we're going to go to Gemini and we're going to query in order for Gemini to give us a prompt. So we're going to request that Gemini write a prompt for us, and we're going to head to Gemini to get that prompt. We're going to stay in the same conversation. What we're then going to do is we're going to request the prompt. If possible, we're going to keep our pro query. We're then going to click submit. And we're going to allow Gemini to then give us the prompt for NotebookLM. Gemini has now given us a prompt. We're going to save that prompt and we're going to export it to Google Docs. Because our sources are now loaded, we do have some options in how to do this. Now, depending on what level of account you have, you may have some other options before crossing back over into NotebookLM. You can copy this entire prompt, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to copy the prompt. One thing you can do is you can go inside of the notebooks here in your tabs, and you can then go inside of the notebook here in Gemini, and you can then paste your query here inside of Gemini. And that is one way of being able to execute this process. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to make sure we have a pro query. We're then going to click submit. You'll then have your post right inside of Gemini. You can then export this post to Google Docs. Or we can go back to NotebookLM. We can refresh it for good measure. Once we've refreshed the page, what we can do is we can then paste our prompt here inside of this area. And we can then submit our query here inside of NotebookLM. You will then have created a report here inside of NotebookLM. Now, one of the things you'll notice here inside of NotebookLM is that one of the sources that can be used is the actual chat where you interacted with your NotebookLM notebook, and you'll see that chat here. So you can pull all that information in here. What we're going to do is we're going to save this to a note. And then we're going to export this to Google Docs. We're going to rename this so that we know this is a report that we generated here inside of NotebookLM. So all we need to do is to click on this element and then just indicate that this is the report that we created in NotebookLM. We'll then go back. We will then export this to Google Docs. And our second report is now generated. So you can use either report that you want. But when you were chatting inside of a notebook, you're going to notice that some of the functions like using Canvas don't work the very same way as they typically work in Gemini. So the cleaner way to undertake the process is still going to be to go inside of the same conversation and grab the synthesis that you put together from NotebookLM. We're going to add it from the drive, and we indicated that it was from NotebookLM. We will then insert it, and then we're going to need to use a specific prompt. We're going to make sure that we're going to specify that we want a slide deck that can be converted to Google Slides. And so that is what we're going to say. We're going to say that we want a professional and plain spoken slide deck that can be converted to Google Slides that can then be used in LinkedIn. We're going to copy that prompt. We're going to place it inside of our new conversation. We're going to paste in our prompt. We're going to make sure that we have the canvas enabled. We will then click submit. Gemini will then begin creating our slides. We then have our slide deck. We can then export the slide deck to slides. We can then open our slides in Google Slides, and it's here where we can make any changes that we want to make. Once we have our slide deck, we can then export it as a PDF, and what we will do is we will then download the presentation as a PDF. Once we have our slide presentation, what we can do is we can then convert the slide presentation to a video. You're going to notice here that there is an element that is new inside of Google Slides. We're going to click Convert to Video. That's going to take us to vids.google. What you will notice then is that vids.google is going to select the slides. You can select all your slides. You will then click Next to select all of your slides, convert them to a video. What you can then do is you can then customize the script and the video. So for example, we can then select a voiceover style. We can choose to use a specific voiceover. We can then create the draft video. And we can then convert our slide deck to a video. So notice now that we have a 3-minute video. Now this is not a full-blown tutorial on how to use vids.google, but basically what we have now done is we have created a video to go with our LinkedIn post. We can then listen in and watch our video.
Welcome to the Executive Summary on AI Adoption for Expertise Marketers. This video provides 10 data-backed insights every course creator, coach, and consultant needs to know to scale. Insight 1 is AI as a force multiplier for ideation. A professional using GPT.
So as you can see, you can also enhance your presentation or what you're going to be doing on LinkedIn by adding in video. And you can use your existing slides presentation in order to do it. So we have started with NotebookLM and we have ended with a video and PDF for our LinkedIn carousel. Okay, so thanks, and I will see you in another video.